Good morning. It is Tuesday, July 5th. We have two commissioners present in the chamber. Is Commissioner Peck on the phone? He won't be here today. So we have a quorum. We have our administrator, clerk of the board. And at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Is there any additions, corrections?
No additions, no corrections.
Okay, then they're approved. Next is the office business vouchers.
We have one today. Fund expenditures. Move for approval of fund expenditures in a total amount of $620,291.09 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator.
I second. There's been a motion and a second to approve the one voucher. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. There are 6 items on the consent agenda.
Move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 6 as presented.
I second. There's been a motion and a second to approve the 6 consent agenda items. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Move down to the commissioner administrator updates. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I think commissioners should be aware, media covered this story pretty extensively last week, that hit a pretty significant milestone in the cleanup of the Pasco landfill. There were about 35,000 barrels of some toxic waste that had been removed from the site, and the soil's been cleaned up, and continuous monitoring equipment is now in place. There's still quite a bit of work left to do in the total site. The first phase was what they call Area A. The county is managing a grant from the Department of Environmental Quality to continue monitoring and continue some of the cleanup efforts. We're working with the different user groups that deposited waste in that area, and moving forward significantly with a cleanup project that's taken many, many years to come to fruition. So significant step forward, but still some work left to do there. Just wanted you to be aware of that. I've also had an opportunity to meet with the Economic Development Director for the City of Pasco regarding potentially jointly using some space downtown for some different things. We've had a need for a long time in trying to put together a facility that would allow the public to come to the courthouse without having to go through the hassle of the security shack, to be able to pay taxes, to get licenses, do the basic transactions that they have to do with county government. Kind of similar in concept to what I see what our friends Benton County are visiting with us today, what they've done over there with their new admin building. The U.S. Bank building that's downtown is scheduled to be vacated by the bank by the end of the month, and so we're talking with the City of Pasco whether there may be an opportunity for us to jointly use some of that real estate for some of the kinds of things that we need to do. That's being done in the context of a larger review of all of the real estate assets of Franklin County. We have property out by the Happel Center that's currently undeveloped, and we may need to take a look at what we want to do with that long term. We do have some increasing needs, as you know, with our elections department. They do have the office down at the Clark Street building that we probably don't have the ability to utilize that space for the long term. It's functional for right now, but as election sophistication continues to increase, as number of people continue to grow, we may outgrow that space. But the whole use of that Clark building for extension services as well as elections and other things that the county uses that space for, some storage downstairs, that kind of thing. We're evaluating what the best recommendation for the long-term use of the Clark building is. But that's like, as I said, it's going to be done in review of all of the real estate assets of the county and how we move forward. So that and a couple of things that we're going to be talking about later today with juvenile justice and the mental behavioral health advisory board and continuing to work on ARPA. Those are the major things I've been working on the past week. Thank you.
Commissioner Mullen?
It's a pretty light week last week with the 4th of July holiday. On Tuesday, we just had the Pasco Chamber Board meeting, and then I had some calls with constituents about issues that they're concerned about, but other than that, like I said, pretty light. And that's it.
Likewise, I had a Port of Pasco meeting, and then I had some constituents get a hold of me too about their approach down there over the Squatso. I know we did some work there, and since the work, it has gotten pretty rough going north on the Squatso with that patchwork that we did on the approach both directions, and it is pretty rough. I was just wondering why it, I think they used a cold asphalt there. I don't know why it's so rough, but it's gotten rough there. Also, I received this letter here from EWOC addressing the predator problem in the hills for not only our elk herd, but the ranchers, and the amount of predators and the population is growing, and it's addressed to the governor and the Game Commission. So I think that this is an opportunity for the commissioners on the east side to ask for some relief and possibly even on a hunting season for these predators that are multiplying dramatically. And the wolves have a parasite that is deadly to infants if they happen to get scat to their mouth with this. If they've got this parasite in their intestines, it'll kill a kid. So it's a big problem, and I think that we could ask the governor and the Game Commission to address that. But that's what I have for the last week's agenda updates. And we'll move on down to the next item on the agenda, which is Human Resources Step 3 Hire, presented by Eric. Wyatt?
Good morning, Commissioners. So the first request I have for you today, so on the ongoing effort to fully staff the HR department, I conducted interviews and found a candidate who I think would be a great fit to fill the HR Generalist 2 position. She currently works in the public sector, has experience dealing with labor unions, is in the process of gaining her HR professional certification, and has about 4 to 5 years of HR experience as well as assistant manager experience. And I just believe her combination of everything will make her a great candidate. And in the process of offering her a job, she requested to be brought in at a higher step, which would be comparable to her current salary range. And then that's my request today, to bring her in at that step 3, which would allow me to make that offer and for her to accept that offer. But happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
I have no questions.
No questions?
No questions.
So Eric, this will give you 4 employees in the office?
That's correct.
Okay. And she's a full-time, will be a full-time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All righty. Well, that's all the questions I got. If there's no more questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So how many positions have you had in that office in the past year?
So the 4th position was added to the office for the 2022 budget. My predecessor, I think beginning with the 2020 budget, had reduced the staff to 3, and then as part of her request for this year, added the 4th position due to the increased workload associated with Washington paid family leave, as well as the increased kind of influx of compensation review requests, which we're adding more workload to the department.
So I'll make the motion to hire the position at step 3 for the human resources. Is that?
Yeah, I'm just requesting the authority from the board for me to make that offer.
Okay. There's not really a
There's not a motion on there
motion on this, so.
Under the recommendation, it's the,
highlighted right
yeah,
there.
is authorized, so I'm requesting the board, to make a motion to authorize the HR director to offer S. Price, the HR generalist 2 position at step 3 on grade 17 of the non-bargaining 8-hour 7-step matrix. And then if approved, I'll bring a personnel action form for the chair to sign, prior to her start date.
I'll make the motion to authorize the HR director to hire S. Price at the HR generalist 2 position, step 3, grade 17 on non-bargaining 8-hour 7-step salary matrix.
I'll second. There's been a motion and a second for the hiring of an HR generalist 2 position at step 3 on grade 17. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
All right, and I believe, Eric, you're
back
up
again,
next with the Juneteenth holiday pay, which we really don't have a say on this, but I guess we have to pass a resolution.
Correct. So there was an error that was discovered last Wednesday that the sheriff's office was processing payroll with Juneteenth paid on there, which I can understand the error, given that we're in the process of working into the collective bargaining agreements, the Juneteenth floating holiday. 3 of those bargaining agreements were approved on the consent agenda item today. Once that error was discovered by myself and the payroll processing teams, I partnered with the auditor's office, the accounting supervisor, to figure out how best we can go about paying the Juneteenth holiday to folks, given that, that's the route that we're working towards actively. So put together that resolution in partnership with them and sent it through legal review to make sure everything was above board there. And so, just the request today is to pass the resolution as presented, which will allow those 5 bargaining units, the law enforcement deputies, corrections lieutenants, corrections maintenance technicians, and sheriff support specialists, the holiday pay in accordance with their normal holiday pay practices.
And I believe the resolution is 2022-149.
Make the motion to approve resolution 2022-149 as presented.
I'll second. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Next, we'll move on down to the update on the Behavioral Health Recovery Center. And I believe we got Benton Commissioner Jerome Delvin. And we also have Matt Rasmussen and Kyle Sullivan. Welcome, gentlemen. Yes, please, get comfortable.
Thank you.
You got a Snickers bar, you're gonna be here a while.
What's that?
I said, you got a Snickers bar, you're gonna be here a while. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I think Matt is on the phone too. He's supposed to be on the phone. He's
Yeah, I'm
come.
on the phone.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Matt. He's come down with COVID, so didn't want to bring him here. But let me start with saying, we've been working towards purchasing the old KGH building, as I refer to it, the campus there. Life Point, of course, is the owner of that structure. They control Lords and they control Trios. They're the parent corporation based out of Tennessee.
Right.
We started talking to people at Life Point. It was John Solheim originally started, but talking about what we wanted to do with the old building and how we were going to use it and such. And it got down to the point where we had made some good progress. Lee Kerr had helped too. He was kind of talking on the behalf of Benton County sometimes. He had some more direct contact links back in Tennessee. But we came down to, with our attorney, talking to their attorney at the end. And the only sticking point, there was, I think, 6 or 8 pages of restrictions they originally started out with. Really, we got down to 1. And they, Life Point, did not want more than a 3-day stay at the Crisis Recovery Center if it was located there, for anyone that had mental health issues, right?
Adult.
Adult mental health, yeah, we're not talking child. They didn't have any, there's no concerns about us opening up an adolescent unit at the KGH building. So it
But-
came down to 3 days. They
If I
wouldn't
might
waive it.
ask, isn't that a state law?
No,
That's not a state law.
not
You
a state
cannot, it can't be held over 3 days. I thought it was.
no, you can,
There's a,
he's the expert on the,
Okay,
yeah, and from a voluntary standpoint, it's as long as a person can stay as long as it's medically necessary. From a legal standpoint, it used to be a 72-hour hold for
Right.
for an initial detention. It's a 5-day hold now. It's 120 hours. The
okay.
law changed a couple of years ago.
Okay, so it's a 5-day stay now, okay.
so they would not, got down to just that 72-hour, 3-day, right? They wouldn't, so, but before that, when we're getting down to that, I think, I was told by our attorney, that their attorney understood what we were trying to do there, but LifePoint was not gonna budge. I don't know where that 3-day came from on their side of it, LifePoint side, but I assume, and maybe I'm wrong, but it has to do with Cron Delay. I call it Cron Delay. It's a facility in Richland, right? Because that's what they run over there. So we said, fine, but in the meantime, Matt and I had been looking around for other property, because the feeling was we'd still buy that building, and we did. We made the agreement to buy that from LifePoint because all three commissioners agreed it was a good deal. Couldn't pass up that facility, because we have other needs, certainly in human services, that we could use that facility for. So we had been looking, Matt and I had been looking for other structures or that we could purchase or lease, and we found one. We had a meeting last week that negotiating the lease, and we've taken some of the Recovery Coalition members through it, by it, looked at it, and we had a meeting, and I think we've agreed on a price, a lease and everything, so it's kind of down to some legal issues, and Matt had to ask, because we are leasing the facility and we're using monies that I think Benton County, we've collected around $10 to $12 million to build that facility, or actually to repurpose the building that we're looking at, and some of that's federal money, so we have to have some assurance on the lease, and Matt has asked those questions with the federal agency to make sure that that's okay. So that's the route we're going now, is to lease that building. It's a good location. It's within Kennewick, easy access from the Blue Bridge or the Green, or the Cable Bridge, centrally located there in downtown Kennewick. I think it'll be out of the way. I don't think people even know what's going on there, but it's a good bone structure that we can repurpose for a crisis recovery center. I'm hoping that the advisory committee will convene, that you've appointed your members now, and we've appointed ours, that committee will convene sometime this month and start on their bylaws. They need to come to agreement on a set of bylaws. And also, because I would like that advisory committee, because it is advising the counties, how to run that facility and how to, what services are needed, that they can make a decision as soon as possible on maybe a provider. Because I would like to get that provider on board before we start construction and design of the CRC, because they're the ones going to be using it. I think it's important for them to be on on that design team to let us know what works in those type of facilities. And we've gone down to Arizona. Kyle's gone with us. Matt and some people from the Recovery Coalition have gone down to Arizona, looked at their facilities, and their providers, and it just looked like it was important to have a provider on early so that can help with that design of that facility that they're going to be using, right? So the provider will be hired by the counties, and So, you know, we would turn around and lease them the building, or minimal lease, in my mind, but, so that's the route we're taking now, so any questions, any technical questions or anything, I got Kyle here to help me, and Matt certainly on the phone. He has more details, he was more really involved in the negotiations with LifePoint on,
So when you talk about provider, you're asking for one provider to run the whole facility?
yeah, to run the Crisis Recovery Center, yes. We found out the model we saw in Arizona was you have a provider that runs the facility, and then they, you know, because your goal is to get those people out of that facility, right? Stabilize them and then get them back in if they already have a treatment provider that they're using, or find them one. So the idea is to get them out, stabilize them, and get them out of that facility, and then back into treatment or their own provider, so they'll be referred out to other providers in the community once they're stabilized, and that's the concept. Kyle, anything to add on that?
No, I get it.
And this location is right across the cable bridge, you said?
Well, it has good access from the cable bridge. It's downtown Kennewick, so it has good access from the cable bridge, the Blue Bridge, or, you know, coming in from Richland, or,
And you haven't had no opposition from that? You guys are putting in that wine tasting area down there, I assume?
no, I mean, we've asked the city of Kennewick, Matt has had conversation, and it's, under the zoning, it's completely permittable.
Okay.
So I don't know why there would be, nearby, you have, Department of Corrections, what do they call it, halfway house.
Okay,
That was quite controversial when it went into that area, that downtown kind of business area, but there's been, you know, it's been pretty quiet for numerous years now.
but you do foresee us as partners on this?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, you know, I think clear from the beginning is that Benton County would own the building, right? Buy the building, lease the building, whatever. We'll take care of all that. We want you as partners, that's why we want you to have your advisory committee too on board, is the services and to help pay for, you know, Franklin County residents' services.
Right.
That's why, you know, we passed the 1/10, and you've passed the 1/10 mental health tax. My mind, for Benton County, I want to use that just for services. I don't want to put monies into infrastructure, even though I don't think, Matt, right, counties aren't allowed to do that, cities are for some reason. They can use their 1/10. Yeah, but counties can't use 1/10 anyway, so, but, that's strictly so. No, I want you guys as partners, because, you know, it's gonna be for a regional area, Tri-City, and so Benton and Franklin County to help, you know, pay for those services. Like I say, but, it's same with, and I think we were gonna ask about juvenile, it's the same with buying the KGH. You know, Benton County will own and lease that to other people, but, you know, we'll be the owners of it. Just same with the CRC, we'll be the leasee or leaseor. But no, I expect Franklin County to be, that's why the advisory committee's there, to advise both counties on what kind of services need to be in that building. But I just, you know, I'm willing to step up for Benton County, and the other two commissioners are too, is we'll pay for the infrastructure.
Okay.
We have the resources, you know, to do that, we will do that. So that's no burden on Franklin County,
Okay.
or, yeah.
The,
I mean, I don't want to run that facility, believe me.
no, but you're saying you're gonna lease this building, right? You're
Right,
not
release
buying
it from the owner, no, he doesn't.
And then you're
want
gonna
it,
sublease it to the provider?
yeah, there's some kind of arrangements we have to make there,
Okay.
certainly.
And have you talked to any providers, or are you waiting for the
We're waiting for the
advisory?
advisory committee.
Okay,
No, there's several out there that in the state that already provide those CRC services.
and our 0.01% can't be used to pay for that?
Can't be
correct?
used to pay for the
Only-
infrastructure.
only
Only
for-
for services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's gonna make the decision on who the provider is for the center?
Well, I mean, both of us are gonna have to, but hopefully it comes from the unanimous, from the advisory committee. And they, so, you know, I don't know technically or legally how you do that contract with the provider. I don't know if both counties sign on to that, or I don't know. That's but that's the reason I want the advisory committee in place and start working, so they can advise the counties on a provider, you know, and the services that they feel are needed.
So we need to get our advisory committees together. When do you
Yeah, I
expect?
think, Matt is trying for, do you have a date, Matt, you're trying to shoot for here in July?
Yeah, July 29th is the date everybody's agreed to.
Okay.
And now we're just gonna nail down a location that's large enough to host the committee and have room for the public to attend too.
So Matt, when do you think we would have this open? When are you expecting or predicting that we could have this up and running, this CRC?
Right now, we're tentatively looking at 2025, but hopefully earlier than that. It really just kind of depends on how quickly, we can get some decisions made and then construction going. But tentatively, we're looking at 2025. We're trying some new, some alternative construction methods on another project that we might employ here that can significantly accelerate that time frame. But I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver than give everybody a rosy picture and not hit that timeline.
Yeah, that's out there. That's out there a ways. I'll just say that, but
Yeah,
do you
it's
think,
a lot further than I think anybody would like.
and do you think Lords is gonna be anywhere involved in this at all?
In what way? I mean,
The hospital here, Lords, because they're involved, obviously they're making a determination on how everything's happening here, what we can use and how many days, hours they can
Well, I
stay.
think, once, we have a separate facility, it's not tied into the KGH property. I mean, on the advisory committee, I asked that someone from the hospitals, position B for the hospital, I was hoping to have ER doctors, right? Because ER doctors see, that's what we're trying to divert from. We're trying to divert from the jails, and we're trying to divert from the emergency rooms to this, facility. And so, I think we have a Cadillac Hospital representative. I think you have one for
Lords.
Lords.
Yep.
So, my hope there is that, they get input from their ER doctors, what they're seeing and stuff, to kind of shape the services to be offered at the CRC. Now, this will be a separately licensed facility by whoever the provider is they'll have the licenses for that CRC. And there are maybe 2 licenses they need to cover, or?
Yeah,
It's,
I'm not sure.
yeah, we've talked about it with Department of Health in the past, but, you can license a CRC, so that provider will hold that license for the CRC.
And even with this facility, if it's an adult, we only can hold them for 5 days.
Well,
No, there's a legal process that if someone gets committed, it's the same as it's a civil commitment.
Right.
That if additional time is needed, I think the hope is if they're needing long-term treatment, they get transferred to an inpatient psych hospital.
Okay.
But sometimes there are problems with bed availability, and so, if a person is on a legal hold at this facility and it needs to be extended beyond that 5 days, they have to go to court.
That legal would be if they were a threat to themselves or somebody else, correct?
Or gravely disabled.
Okay, and so then they could be held longer.
Yeah, there's a legal process that's in place to extend the time. Again, I think if the intent is to extend the time, the hope would be to transfer that person to an inpatient psych facility.
Because I think that was what we explained to LifePoint, that, our goal is to, stabilize someone and get them out for treatment or, with their provider. It's not to house, but as Kyle said, if there aren't beds available, we certainly just don't want to kick them out the door.
Right.
And that was the whole sticking point with LifePoint, is, well, we just don't want to, and I think their attorney understood that, but then he works for his corporation, so, we made that quite clear that we're not wanting to compete but we're not just gonna, if there's no beds available after 3 days, we're not gonna open the door and kick them out in the street. That's not right? And
Because
so,
Condolet was the only other place, right, where you could hold the, so if their beds are
for
all,
the mental,
if their beds are all full, and they put a 3-day restriction on us,
So that's why we're just gonna do a separate facility. That way, that issue isn't there anymore.
okay.
So did they even entertain the thought of maybe leasing part of that facility to Lords or Life Point?
No, I don't think Life Point brought that up at all.
They didn't, or, okay.
Well, I don't think it was in, whoever asked the question, I don't think it's Benton County's role to try to, I mean, Life Point is part of, Lords is part of Life Point's corporation. I don't know why, it was never brought to us. I don't know why I would even think about asking them. Cron Delay wants to be in the building. I mean, I just don't understand that.
I guess if it was a one-stop recovery center and you had positions and space available for different providers, it just seems like that would have been an option that maybe they could have worked out.
Well, we're willing to lease the KGH building to whoever, whatever provider wants to lease it. We're willing to do that. We don't have any. If you're trying to have a co-location, I mean.
Well, I think we wanted a
my-
one-stop
yeah.
location where they could drop somebody off and have multiple providers there to access their care and take care of the people. And then this
Well, yeah.
whole 3-day hold thing came in. It just seems like it would have been logical to say, well,
But
if
that's not the model for a CRC. You don't have a bunch of providers and start putting people in boxes when they come in the front door. You have one provider that's, you know, stabilizing, deciding what kind of treatment that way, and then they're, after they're stabilized, then they're put out into other providers in the community.
Okay.
It's not a, it's not a, like, one shop and that's where they're gonna stay. It's, there's no wrong door, so anyone brought in is not refused. Whereas now, apparently that happens at the other facility, people are refused at the door. No, we're not taking you. And so, that's not what this CRC, Crisis Recovery Center, is a different model. It's not, we'll take you if you have insurance, we'll take you if we, you know, no one's refused.
okay.
People are refused at the other facility.
But it will be a one-stop. Where you
Well, I don't know if a one-stop is the correct term.
So is it?
That's why I like the no wrong door, because someone's brought to the door, they're taken in, no matter if they're combative, if they don't have insurance, whatever. There's nothing stopping them from coming in that door and getting treatment. That's what the 1% sales tax, 1/10 is to provide that cost.
Will this recovery center have a detox center?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
a place that the law enforcement can take the?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's the whole purpose of this,
Yeah.
is law enforcement shows up the door with whoever, you know, and they're taken in, they're not, or the ambulance driver. They don't need to go to the ER room.
Okay.
They don't need to go to jail, you know, and be booked on some misdemeanor charge just to take care of the issue. They're brought to the door and they're taken in.
All right.
No one's refused.
So Jerome, I don't know if you've heard any of these rumors that are coming from some pretty good individuals. State trooper told me, that guy over in Olympia told me, they're busing their camps over here.
Camps.
They're camps where they have all these tent camps. These individuals, the state is
Oh,
actually.
you mean like, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, when you said tent camps, okay, I know what you're talking about
Camps,
now, yeah.
the camps,
You
yeah.
mean people just
So
throw
we're-
a tent up on the street or wherever?
Yeah, they have these tent camps and they're cleaning them up and they're putting them on buses and they're shipping them over here to Eastern Washington.
I haven't heard
We
that.
could have a big problem here as far as being completely full and not have enough room if this continues. I think we need to really start looking into this. I was told by a state trooper, I was told by somebody over in Olympia that yes, this is going on.
I had not heard that, but I
we
mean,
need-
that's something that
Yeah.
hopefully, you know, can be addressed if it, you know,
Because it'll
starts showing
overwhelm,
up, they start
it'll
showing up.
overwhelm our facility if this is happening
Oh, certainly,
in a hurry.
certainly.
You got any more questions?
As far as looking for a provider, how many providers are out there that are interested in being at the center?
There's not been an RFP for
Yeah.
any type of services, so it's you know, there's obviously, there's not a lot of providers that specialize in that, but there are providers that can do the work, obviously, so it's just a matter of seeing who's interested.
And you're gonna wait until our committees are meeting before you ever talk to any provider, correct?
Yeah, I want them to come forward with a name.
Yes.
What do you say?
I said it's a lie.
Which is.
What's a lie? You piping up there in the background?
I'm piping up right here. I'll come right up
Jeez,
front.
well, come up front instead of sit
Let's
there
talk,
and
let's
eat,
talk
Sheriff-
about how this was
instead
all
of
supposed to
beat
be,
in the back.
okay? Because 4.5 years ago, people from from all of the Tri-Cities met. There was an agreement that KGH would be the best place for a recovery center, a one-stop recovery center, and that we were going to do this in partnership. In fact, this board and that board each threw in $15,000 apiece to do a study with KGH, okay? And we started from there. And the message was sent back to the commissioners, we want to do this in partnership, and we want people to be in agreement, and we want to form committees to sit down and talk about this so we do it right the first time. And what's happened now is Benton County commissioners have went out, they bought property, they're sitting here telling you what you can and can't do.
Oh, wait
with this thing.
wait a minute.
No, no, I got
Never
the
Oh,
mic.
hold on,
I
hold
got
on.
the
I've
mic,
never
bro.
said,
I got the mic.
Order.
Okay? And so that's what was supposed to happen. But now we're sitting here, Benton counties went out and purchased KGH. Benton counties went out and did this and did that. Somewhere along the line, we ought to let the committees meet and sit down and talk about what's best for our communities.
do you
to
even
come back to
listen?
you.
Do you even listen to what's been
No,
said here?
you just run stuff the way you want it ran, Jerome.
No, I think it was pretty clear that we all agreed that we had the resource of Benton County to buy and.
That's not what was said in the very beginning.
Well, I don't know where your history's gone, but,
My
you know,
history's
maybe you ought to
just
worry
fine,
about
John.
other things. Maybe you ought to worry about other things.
Not gonna.
Well,
This
okay,
is-
what-
This is one of the things.
Whatever.
that
If you wanna
causes
build
the
your own
issue.
facility over here, you go ahead and do it, dude.
Well, I think
Go
there
ahead
should
and
be
do it.
discussion about that. I think there should be discussion about you severing your ties completely with Benton County if you're gonna keep being treated this way.
Sheriff?
There-
I mean, we've kept them informed. I've talked to Brad Peck, kept him
Yeah, well,
informed.
that's the
I mean, we've
problem.
gotten
You all
messages,
haven't
we've
kept
gotten
the
messages.
communities informed.
Well, I don't know how
Okay.
much more we can do there, you know?
So Jerome, to address that, I've been in the dark on all this. Nobody's kept me informed on anything. And I'm sort of a little
Oh, yeah,
ticked
well,
off
I'll
about it.
take, you know, we should have been over
I
here
mean,
maybe
Brad
every
Peck's,
step of the way.
Brad Peck's not Franklin County, okay?
Well,
He is
maybe
a
it should have been-
commissioner.
Maybe it should have been over here a step away, but I was under the assumption, and maybe I assumed wrong, that, you know, we had the resources to buy the building, we had the resources to.
And that
to
was our
open up the
agreement.
CR and that was the agreement.
Yes,
And then we asked you guys to appoint the advisory committees,
And
right?
we did.
And we did, so that's in their hand now.
That's
Well, I
right.
don't wanna run that facility. I want a provider recommended by the advisory board
Mm-hmm.
to hire. That person, that provider's hired, and the advisory committee is working with that provider to keep things going. I don't want any part, I'm not running it, I'm not telling you guys, you know, what to do, unless you guys wanna come up with $12 million to help pay for it. But, you know, that goes into the discussion about the juvenile. We've had issues with that juvenile, because you guys, because you're a smaller county in population size and resources, right? I get that. But we have the resources, we're willing to take over the juvenile facility and put the money into that place. But again, you know, it's operated like human services. You pay your fair share. I mean, that's all I'm asking. We have the resources, Benton County's willing to put those resources into the facilities, and then you guys don't have to worry about that. Benton County will worry about that. Now, if he thinks that's control, then maybe he ought to look at his own jail. I don't know. You know,
well, this
run
affects his
that
jail.
Run
This-
that jail.
This affects
You
his
know,
jail.
that's his
as-
facility.
As it affects your jail.
Right.
It's
And those
affecting the
people
jail.
shouldn't be in there.
That's right. And
Now,
that's
it's
what-
taken longer. I know there's frustration because it's taken longer to get this,
No, it's gonna be
to
2025,
negotiate.
yeah.
To negotiate, but, you know, we had to go through that. We could have walked away, but then I don't think that was the right thing to do.
And nothing's gonna be determined until our committees meet.
Right, right.
And so
Right.
all we're doing right now is just getting through.
Yeah, we bought the building because we have the money to buy the building. They don't have the money to buy the building.
They bought a building.
Yes.
They bought a building, doesn't mean that we're gonna participate in it. We're gonna let
Right.
our committee meet with their committee,
Right.
and we're gonna determine whether or not we wanna be part of this. So they went out on a limb, they bought a building without our consent, and and they can do that. We
Well,
don't
and
have
if
to
I was
participate.
wrong, if I was wrong on the understanding of that, I thought, you know, Benton County was going to take care of the infrastructure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if I was wrong in that, and you guys wanna bill half and half with KGH to do whatever we want to do with that, then it's fine. If you wanna go half and half on the lease, then we'll sit down and renegotiate that lease and renegotiate the sale of the building. If that's what you guys want. But I'm just gonna say, you know the issues with the juvenile facility. It's falling apart. It's gotta be fixed. And we're willing to put, you know, around $20 million into that juvenile facility to fix that juvenile facility and fix the infrastructure there. Not cost you guys anything, you just pay your fair share of operations.
Yep. As
That
we
was
have,
agreed, right?
As we have in the past.
Right. That's all, and that's all I'm doing with the
And,
CRC.
and all I want for this whole thing, Jerome, is I want our communities to work on the good of the
Well,
community.
we can.
Well,
and-
well, now,
and-
hang on, let
and
me
the-
finish,
and the-
because we've already had a conflict, and I want to know whether or not Comprehensive can work with Lords, because they've had a falling out. And if we are at odds with one another, how are we going to have a successful plan here? If we can't work together for the betterment of our community, and Lords and Comprehensive are already at odds with one another, we seem to have some tension here and with what's going on.
Well, there's some people that like to stir up stuff for whatever reason. I don't understand it. I've always been open. People come call me. I know you got one Franklin County resident, and she calls me all the time. I let her know what's going on.
I know
I
who
got
that
nothing
is.
to hide.
No, I know that.
I'm out in the press talking about it. You know, we got nothing to hide. So, you know, I don't know what to say. You know, I don't have you know, an ego. That's why I want that advisory committee to run the thing. I don't want to run it. I don't think you want to
No.
spend your time running it, right?
I'm not
That's the whole
qualified.
idea behind that advisory board.
Yes.
It's not one county over the other county. It's the citizens telling us what they need at that facility.
And then the
And we provide the
commissioners,
funding.
and we have the final
And
say.
we provide the funding for
Yeah.
it. That's all there is.
Okay.
I mean, if we can't get this together, then, you know, God help the whole Tri-Cities.
Exactly.
Because it isn't about Benton County leading the charge or Benton County. We have the resources. And I'm willing to commit those resources on behalf of Benton County taxpayers to make this thing happen.
Okay. Keith, you
And
got
if someone
anything?
has a hard time with that, then I don't know what to tell them.
I would just refer folks back to the March, I believe it was March, joint meeting between
Yep.
this board and the Benton County Board. We met over there in the Benton County chambers. And my recollection, and I'm happy to go back and check for myself, but my recollection was exactly as Commissioner Delvin described, was that Benton County was going to acquire the infrastructure. We did. Everybody was optimistic that the KGH hospital would be the location, but subsequent to that, as it turned out with those negotiations, they could not reach agreement with LifePoint. And so some circumstances have changed in terms of where the location of that facility was supposed to be, but I think the original intent that Benton County would provide the capital and Franklin County would participate in operating it, was the extent of that agreement that was reached back in March. And I know there's frustration by the fact that the KGH facility didn't
Yeah.
pan out exactly how they wanted, but that's kind of where we are.
And I think that we just need to settle down here and let the committees meet, and we'll find out what
I
they come
agree.
up with. Because
agree.
I think we have in Franklin County, we have a great group put together. And I think that we can do the betterment for the community here with this,
I
if we
agree.
can work together. But again, I want to make sure that we got all these health Lords and Comprehensive, we got to work together on this. We can't be at odds with one another.
Well, you know, and I don't know what their issues are. I don't know.
It's funding.
I don't
It's all
know.
about money, Jerome.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. Everything
They
comes
took
down to
some of the
money.
funding away from Lords.
Yeah, so, you know, that was greater behavioral
Yeah.
who held those contracts. And so I don't know, Sean Small, Commissioner Small is our representative on that. So I don't know, what issues Lords had with GBH, Greater Behavioral Health. I don't know what those issues were, but us, us negotiating with LifePoint had nothing to do, because that was brought up by, I think John Solheim asked me, and I think Kyle talked to John Solheim too. So that, one thing has nothing to do with the other. I don't know what's going on at Greater Behavioral Health. Doesn't enter into negotiating for the building.
Right.
I don't know why they lost their contract or what that was. I don't know.
Well, and again, I think it wasn't a matter of them taking funding. The funding is for the residents of Benton and Franklin County for services provided, not for profit or anything remotely close to that. Is to provide the services. So they're not providing the services, so they don't need the same level of staffing. They don't need, it's the money for crisis services is for providing those services, and so it's for the residents, not for any corporation.
And I hope the advisory board, that's, when they meet, is, they get their bylaws, they get the structure stuff done, is that they, they look at providers, and look at, nonprofit versus profit. I mean, you don't make profit in human services necessarily. It's not the name of the game. And so, there's good providers out there in this state already that have a long track record of crisis recovery centers that I'm sure the committee can find a good one, and recommend a good one that can run that facility.
Well, let's let the committees get together and see what they come up with.
Well, you say, I think it has one committee.
One committee.
One committee.
But there's
The
one
committee
from
gets-
Franklin and one from
Well,
Benton.
yeah, I mean, that's who compose it, but I would like to think that they're one committee for the Tri-City.
Okay. Me too. Because if we don't work together,
Right,
it ain't gonna work.
right.
Any other questions?
I just want to say thank you for coming in today. I mean, I think there needs to be a little bit more communication between the two counties, just so we can kind of know what's going on. But I do thank you for being here, because in the end, this is all about the citizens and taking care of them. And this is a need that definitely needs to be addressed. And it's just very important that we all communicate with each other, so we all know we're all on the same page, so.
So Jerome, if you wouldn't mind maybe reaching out to Rocky and I too, also on your
Okay.
communication, because we feel like we're being left in the dark on this.
Okay. Okay, well, I apologize for that. I'll work on the communication with you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Let's make this thing work.
definitely.
Thank you. All righty. Is there anything else? Mr. Johnson, anybody want to add?
Do you want to talk about that juvenile?
Questions of, yeah, I was just gonna say, is there anything you wanna add about the juvenile justice
No, it's
facility?
just, we hired they were looking already at, because, we're repurposing the Justice Center.
Right.
Because we built the right? And so, we're looking, right now, I think all the commissioners have agreed, not formally, but, we're gonna build a new sheriff's building on the campus there. That frees up a lot of space there in the juvenile, in the Justice Center. We're thinking about maybe looking at that to do, a new juvenile facility, but then we hired a group to look at that, check the laws and everything, if we could do that, but, then we decided, no, that's not gonna work, in the sense, cause there was some opposition from the courts about me being closer to the courts than they are, So anyways, we've now decided, then we'll just put the money into the existing facility. And, cause we had talked about that, maybe at that same meeting, about, we'll put the money in it we'll redo it, and Benton County will be the owner of the building, and then Franklin County pays their share of the operations, just like they have been, based on a percentage of the populate, right? Because we have 20 million that we can put into it, most of it's gonna just go into basic infrastructure, like the HVAC system, the alarms, all that core stuff. But I think there's enough because that annex building now is empty because the auditor and the treasurer were in what they call the annex building, has moved into the new admin building, so that building is empty. That can be repurposed for administration offices. Anyways, I think there's enough room in the existing building that they can get a second courtroom. They can get some more training so you don't have juveniles going into the lockup to hold classes and stuff like that. You know, they don't need to go into that section. We can separate all that. I think we can make it work for 20 million.
But just to clarify, Franklin County will pay its portion on the populace of the facility. Whatever we got for attendees in there is what we're gonna pay on.
Yeah, and the cost of the operation,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
Just, I think the current agreement calls for that. Right. I mean, we have to, once we take the building though, then we can get rid of that shared cost thing when it comes to
Repairs.
telephones and,
Right.
you know, that kind of HVAC system or
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
So you feel the building is sound enough to do the renovation?
Yeah, the group is, when they start looking at it, they're going over there to look at it. The group that go ahead, Matt,
They started on that, I think last week.
looking at it.
Yep.
What's your call? You guys are putting all the money into it. We're just gonna be,
Well, you know, I just want to get some things done. It's hard sometimes in government.
yeah, it sounds like you're not able to move it to where it'd be more feasible. You gotta keep it right where it's at.
Well, didn't,
Yeah,
didn't you get-
unfortunately, we had
Go ahead,
We
Matt.
had that evaluation done, and in order to put it into where we were looking at it, the cost was significantly more than a remodel of the existing facility would have been, along with the opposition to actually having it located right adjacent to the jail.
Any other questions on the Juvenile Justice Center? Appreciate your
Okay.
time. Thank you.
Anytime.
Yes, thank you for coming in.
Hey,
Okay.
gentlemen, while you're here,
Yes.
I did have one question on, related to Veterans Court. We did a trial run of a single client last year, that, as I understand from talking to the people who are running the court, they thought that went very well. And so as we're both gearing up for our budget, wanted to see what the likelihood is of either continuing or expanding the Veterans Court program. That was something Franklin County wanted to participate in. So just wanted to put that out there for some thoughts, and don't need an answer today, but something to think about and maybe make some decisions on.
Well, thank you, Matt. And on that note, a VSO. We're in desperate need of a VSO for our veterans. Just got wind of another veteran that was homeless, and we got him into I don't know who showed up, but they got him into a house. We need to get this VSO appointed and put into place to help these veterans that have served our country. Veteran Service Officer,
We don't have one here?
not yet.
And if I can,
Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
yeah, and I'm actually gonna come back next week
We got a meeting this afternoon on this.
Yeah, next week I have, there were some things I needed to work out with the HR department. Next week I have, we had to amend, the MOU between the two counties to account for that, and I have the Veterans Assistance Fund policy,
Okay,
that'll come before the board also. Once I get that done, I go before Benton County's board, and then we should be ready to go.
so what do you think, another month? We'll
Yeah.
have them in place? Good, because
Yeah, I'll be here next week, and then, I'm out of town the following week, and then I'm going before Benton County's board, I think the last Tuesday of the month. And then, once that's signed off, we can start advertising for the position.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but a VSO is one that helps the veterans. Not only, we got our funds here locally, but state and federal, and if they don't get those forms filled out right the first time, they're out, right?
Yeah, more specifically, they help veterans or families of veterans in applying for disability
Yes.
claims, those kinds of things, and they walk them through that process. And if the state denies it, they'll assist them with the appeal process in Olympia, and
But it becomes much harder when they're denied.
yes.
Yes. That's why we need a VSO, so they get it done right the first time. All right, thank you, Kyle. All right, with that, we'll move down to the next item on the agenda, which is public comment. Is there anybody for public comment? I imagine there's going to be quite a bit after that. Just come to the mic, please.
Yeah, come on and have a seat, Kyle.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Commissioners. The original thought with KGH was for it to be a full wraparound, one-stop location.
Yep.
That we all paid money for, to look at that, for that purpose. Then what I hear now is the word "we" coming out of Ben County saying we've done this and we've done that. That causes me concern, okay? Or I hear out of Kyle or the public health group that this has been done and that's been done, without any of the groups coming together and talking about what is it that we want to see the KGH building be, whether contracts or who bought it or who owns it. But I think there's a clear message coming from you all here that take it our way or there's no way. That's what I'm hearing. And I want to pay my own way as a Franklin County citizen, as a sheriff of Franklin County, as a taxpayer of Franklin County. I don't want to be beholden to anybody. So if I got to pay more taxes, then damn well tax me more, because I want to have the same say and I don't want to be treated indifferently because I'm a smaller county or I'm something this or that. You currently are trying to negotiate and sell the Wilson House. And you're trying to figure out property at Track and all these different holdings that we have as a county. I suggest that you stop and don't sell anything to anybody for a few minutes and look around this campus, what sits around you. Complete medical center over here sitting empty that's owned by our community hospital. This side, Atomic Foods. If we have to go on our own, so that we can lead the way and lead the people of our community, then maybe this is the time if this is how we're going to be treated. Maybe it's just that time. But let me recap. KGH was the vision and the goal of all the groups of the Tri-Cities to acquire for full wraparound services, secure bed space, unsecure bed space, with all the public service providers being wrapped around that center to help the community, to restore people, et cetera, et cetera. That was the goal. There was never any discussions about anything else. That was the goal. Then we brought these leaders together to sit and talk about this. They haven't even met. Apparently, if I'm listening right, Benton County's has, our side hasn't met. We're gonna meet this Thursday to talk about it all, so that we can get some sort of direction, the way things should go. And yeah, some of the things that are happening in our community underneath the covers, if you will, it's pretty shady in my sense, and until it becomes clear to the community. Don't be doing anything with our properties, any of those type of things until we get this, because this is a major hurdle. And if we can't figure out how to get along and do this and do it right, and 6 men aren't making the decisions for everybody, we're in trouble.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
I've been working my name is Jason Bliss. I've been working in the SUD and housing industry in our Tri-Cities area for the better part of 10 years. I've seen the struggles that both counties have faced with the amount of homelessness, with the amount of SUD, with the amount of individuals that are placed inside of the Franklin County Jail, that are placed inside of the Benton County Jail, and they're forced to act as defunct mental health treatment facilities. I've seen the heartache, I've seen the turmoil. I've sat with parents from both Benton County and Franklin County where their kids have died from SUD. I've seen the havoc that this continues to wreak. Commissioner Didier, you're spot on. Your sources that you speak with and say that they're busing people here from different different areas of the state. It's true, it does happen. My finger's very close on the pulse, and I feel that and I hear that same stuff. Guys, it's troubling for me to hear of the turmoil between Benton County and Franklin County in regards to this. I know that there's politics involved. I know that and that's way above Jason's pay grade. I don't understand a heck of a lot of those politics that happens between both counties. But men, I am assured of this. Both counties equally need this now more than ever. And I would hope for the greater good of both Benton and Franklin counties that together we can find a way to make this thing work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Public comment? Anybody on the phone, Keith?
No one on the phone right now.
Please come forward.
My name's Michelle Gerber. Let's get this right. My name's Michelle Gerber. I'm president of the Benton Franklin Recovery Coalition. And we are completely local. We have no ties to any other communities. All of our board members have lived in the Tri-Cities at least 30 years. So we're not trying to implement any program that is based on a Seattle model or any other model. Also, we have no financial ties. We have no interest in owning, governing, or managing this facility, nor being the treatment provider. So we have no financial interest. But we are residents here with deep ties to this community. I've raised 5 children here, one of whom died of addiction. So I'd like to share some things that we know to be true. This community needs an open procurement based on getting the best provider in the nation. And they're out there, they're interested in this field, and they'll come if we open up the procurement. We can't abide any preference for any provider who's here already. We cannot abide a preference for a local provider just because they're here. And we certainly can't abide a provider who is owned by a corporation from Tennessee who came here to make profit. There is no reason we would want to give any preference to that provider. A Tri-Citian dies of addiction every 5 days. We know some of those people. And others die of complications of drug use, such as abscesses, suicide, organ failure. And so time is of the essence. I hope we can work together. I hope that Franklin County and Benton County can work together. I fully support the cooperation of the 2 counties, and I understand it, but not when this call for cooperation becomes a veil for a preference for a local provider. We have to have the best. We have to go nationwide and get the very best. I would also say that we're in close touch with funders from Olympia because we can do that. We're not government employees, so we can talk freely to Olympia. And they are excited. They say that this facility will be a key part of the state's behavioral health system, and they want it to go forward. They don't want any more delays. And they're not happy when they hear that we may have some more renegotiations or other delays. So if we try to change our plans now, the legislature will give its money to other projects around the state that are ready to go. So I ask you to put the Tri-Cities first, to work together, and not to give any preference for an out-of-state corporation. Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Leland Kerr. I'm the superintendent of the Kennewick Public Hospital District, and I've been involved in this project essentially from the beginning, and I wish to second what Michelle has indicated. One, we have a severe situation. As you're aware, we had over 106,000 overdose deaths this last year. The problem is becoming worse, and it's going to be exacerbated by other people who may be coming into our area. So I urge your continued support of this project. probably have a little more background in some of this than is, and perhaps can answer some of the questions. One is I'd remind you back, you didn't pay $1,500, you paid $2,500 to put together a feasibility study that we presented to you here almost 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago. And in that, there's a number of things that I think are still beneficial to you. One is the basic financial. One is that any type of a program cannot have debt support to be able to make it successful. And that's why outside funding became such an important issue. And that's why we're looking for the funding revenue source primarily that Benton County may provide. The other is that M&O. The M&O has to come from a local basis to provide for those services. And as we presented at that time, the 1/10 of 1% sales tax became that safeguard. From that point on, the thing looks like it'll probably cash flow. But like I said, this can happen. So let me address it a little bit back to the original campus. And one thing I think is being overlooked is that we recognize, and I am somewhat disappointed in the position that LifePoint took in regards to protecting their interest, but still, I may be exaggerating, but I think about 99% of what we looked at in our original package can still be done at the campus. We still have the capacity for secure and unsecured detox. We still have the capacity for secure and unsecured residential treatment. We still have the capacity to be able to deal with short-term mental health situations. Those things aren't addressed by this agreement, or they would be limited. We may have to refocus exactly a very limited area, which would be the crisis response center. But we are still ready to go. We got all the pieces literally on the table this time. We just need to work forward. The other is don't underestimate or not utilize the services that have gone before. We've already done the preliminary planning for all of the things that we need at that campus, including the secure and unsecured detox and residential, and the other support services. Those have all on paper. They've all been approved by the Department of Health. So we can jump forward very, very quickly in regards to getting that portion of the puzzle put in play. So I urge your continued. I hope I likewise extremely frustrated by the time that it's taken, and literally, every day we delay, we are jeopardizing lives. And so I hope that we can get our committee together, the council together, move forward with a lot of enthusiasm, but more importantly, with critical haste. And so, and I can answer any of the questions too in regards to. I know the question was raised by Sheriff Raymond in regards to, well, where was LifePoint in the early point? And 2 points. One is that one of the first things that we looked for providers. And the pool of providers is not as deep as you would think. We started with Ascension, who is a nationwide provider. They did our feasibility studies, you may recall, and they were not interested. We went out to Horizon, which is probably the second largest, and we began the negotiations with them for an RFQ to find out if they'd be able to come in. They withdrew. And so we've also looked around. So there are people out there that can be able to come in. I don't see anybody that's local that's got the capacity to be able to do it or have an interest. And I don't see, specifically in regards to LifePoint, as you recall, they were one of the first people we came in to have them take a look, and they turned it down at that time because they weren't ready for it. The second thing is that in this time, LifePoint is merged with a group called Kindred, which is in the business of mental or behavioral health. However, they may potentially be a participant. I extremely doubt it. They haven't expressed an interest because we went to them. We did the same thing that we did with LifePoint. Went to now under the Kindred umbrella to see if they would have an interest to be able to put this thing together. So, like I said, we haven't ignored those roles and we haven't ignored those resources. But at this point we have to have a project. We have to have something that we can say, this is the facility you can work in. Provide us a proposal for twofold. One is what the steps need to be made to be able to make the adjustments to make an optimal setting. And the second is what it's going to cost us to be able to provide the services. So again, I think this was an extremely important meeting to be able to get the two counties together. I hope they'll work shoulder to shoulder from this point on, and that we'll be able to move that up from 2025 to let's work for 2024. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Nobody on the phone, Keith?
Good morning, Commissioners. I want to echo something that Sheriff Raymond said. We heard an awful lot a few weeks back and today of we. And you're 33% of the we, right? You're a third of the 6 members that need to make these decisions. And we heard an awful lot of we, and you weren't included in that we. We've heard a lot of, we need to hurry up and get this done. And I agree with that, except for it needs to be done properly. I'll give you some statistics. I like statistics because it strips away the opinion and it gives us the truth of the matter. We have a number of providers in this community, and all of them are struggling with staff. If we were to bring in additional providers, we're going to split the staff that we have among an additional provider versus hold up the providers that we have. The facility that was spoken of today, Cron de Lay, has 32 inpatient beds. It has 18 transition beds, 10 crisis triage beds, and the staff is the problem. It's not the facility to be able to provide for those beds. We need to work together as a county. We started doing that a number of years ago, and we were on track. And now the we hasn't included us as Franklin County. The we have been making decisions that didn't include us. It didn't include the public, of which you know that I'm very engaged in what's happening in our county. I'm very engaged in what's happening in this community that we're speaking of today. I would encourage you to get involved, to become a part of the we, and make some of these decisions. I believe that the old KGH facility could be brought up to speed faster than any other facility that we possibly could get, because it is a hospital, and that's some of the services that we need. That is the part of the wraparound services we speak of, is having a facility. The facility is a piece of that, right? And then we need some of these providers to come together. I encourage you to get involved. And it was interesting. There was a statement made several weeks ago at this podium, and that statement was that more than 10 times there was an attempt made to get a hold of LifePoint to have the discussion about what their demands were, or what their negotiation points were, and that there was no response. While that statement was being made at this kiosk, I was reading an email that proved that statement was untrue. I was sitting in that chair over there reading that statement in my email, proving that statement untrue to myself. So I would encourage you to get engaged in the process, become a part of the we, and make the decisions that we as the people have elected you to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Hi, Angie Manarola. I hate coming up here and speaking, so sorry about my voice. But I do have to speak out a little bit about the communication piece of it. I'm a Franklin County citizen, but I've had great conversations with all 3 of my commissioners. I've had great conversations with 2 of the 3 Benton County commissioners. And the 3rd one, I just haven't reached out to him, so it's not that we had a bad conversation. I've had great conversations with Sheriff Raymond, Stephen Bauman, Kyle Sullivan, and Matt Rasmussen have both been great about getting back to me and answering my questions and my ideas about this. So I just want to say, I think we can all work together. We just need to just look at the big picture and remember what the common goal is. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? And nobody on the phone, Keith?
No, sir.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that engagement there. That was very good. Next, we'll move down to the administration office business. Keith?
Thank you. Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion, of course, and certainly be available to answer questions today, but we're bringing 2 resolutions before you. The first one deals with the energy audit that we have done at the Happel Center to update and modernize a lot of our HVAC and lighting systems. That audit work has been performed by McKinstry under contract between Franklin County and the Department of Enterprise Services. We have come to the conclusion that we are at a dangerous point of not being able to host events there if we don't begin repairing and replacing some of these major systems. And secondly, we kind of have the same problem in our public safety building. The HVAC system is antiquated and we can't find parts, and it's been very difficult for us to plan for the future and generally be concerned about daily operations in that facility. So because both of these contracts go through the Department of Enterprise Services, there's two agreements that we're asking to approve today. The first one deals with the HAPL Center, and then the second one deals with the public safety building. The public safety building project has a separate energy company. It's a Train that is doing that work for us. The first one, as I said, is McKinstry. They're doing that work under contract with the Department of Enterprise Services. So we intend to fund these contracts, the work. The first one, as you will recall, we have broken that project down into 2, possibly 3 phases. We feel like we need to get started on the first phase, so this agreement today just approves phase 1 of the HAPO project, and the second resolution, 22-148, moves forward with a complete public safety building HVAC upgrade. So I'm happy to deal with those separately or together. There is a piece of the contract that represents both of them. You'll see that in your paperwork for the public safety building project. There's a agreement with Enterprise Services that includes both the HAPL Center project and the public safety building project. And then on just the HAPL Center, the first one, there's a funding agreement that I would like to have approved. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have or go into more detail if you feel like you need that.
Have we had any more correspondence with the city of Pasco on the HAPL Center?
We've had limited correspondence. They are agreeable to the idea. Nothing has changed since we last spoke about that. They are still in the process of internally discussing that and having discussions with us. I expect or hope that we will have a very serious discussion about them participating in phase 2 of the HAPL project, because it will be connected to some degree to our renewal of our agreement with them for operation expense going forward.
All right.
Any other questions, Commissioner Mullen?
I have no further questions.
Has the estimate changed?
It has gone up, and the longer we wait, the more it will go up. We're not immune from the current inflationary and supply chain issues.
Do you have the amounts that it has changed?
Yes, I don't have the change. The HAPL Center is the one that went up. It's now at 6.5.
595.
Yeah, I think the last estimate we had was at about 6.2.
So it's went up 300,000.
300,000 in the last 4 months.
And this will be all ARPA funds.
Yes.
Well, if there's none of any other questions, would you like these motions to be separate?
Yeah, we'd like
Okay.
both
I'll entertain
resolutions
a
read
motion.
separately.
I'll make the motion that we approve resolution 2022-147 as presented.
There's been a motion for 2022-147. I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The next resolution will be 2022-148.
What is the cost on the 22-148?
$2,111,396.01.
And that is for this courthouse, correct?
It's the public safety building
Public
next to
safety.
the courthouse.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we approve resolution 2022-148 as presented.
There's been a motion for 2022-148. I will second. Is there any further discussion?
No further discussion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
All right, that'll get the HVAC systems up to date. And when do you think they'll start on that? Immediately?
Jennifer, I'm going to ask you how soon they start on that. This summer, but yeah, please come forward and speak into the microphone. Thank you. Mr. Baker.
Mike James with Train, thanks for having us here today. For the public safety building, we could mobilize as early as December of this year for construction.
And for the,
They're not involved in the HAPO
oh,
Center.
they're not involved?
Yeah, they're just involved in the public safety building.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it'll be this December you'll start on it?
Yeah, and part of the project is a chilled water upgrade, so we don't want to start that work until early next year. So we want that major equipment to come online about when you need to use it, just so we don't eat into the warranty with major equipment sitting there.
Okay, all right. And when do you anticipate them starting on the HAPO Center?
They'll start ordering equipment right away because the engineering work's been done, and so
Okay.
we'll get started on that. I would expect to see some movement out there. 8 months is that's not the start date. There's lead time for ordering some of this is going out, so that's part of our challenge. But yeah, it'll be about the same time frame.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll move on down to the second public comment. Is there anybody for public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. It's me again. Different topic this time. Really quick, a side note, I had the opportunity to work at a fireworks stand for the last 5-6 days, and they're in the HAPO Center parking lot. And you've heard me say this numerous times before, but I would encourage you to address the parking lot there. It needs addressing very shortly, or the cost will continue to rise. So what I really came to talk to you about is I've been working on some projects just kind of at our county city line for a while. We've been working to bring sewer services from the city of Pasco to the area just north of the airport, kind of out towards Douglas Fruit. And through that process, all of the projects there have a traffic impact. And there's fees or mitigation that will be necessary to take care of those projects. And through that process, we identified the need to put a connecting road from approximately the intersection of Road 52 and Burns Road to the east to connect at Taterboy or Lamb Weston at Glade Road. So through that process, I've had lots of conversations with a lot of people about that. I've invited your county administrator to be there, and he's accepted. I'm thankful for that. We're having a meeting on July the 12th. It'll be at the police service building there in their conference room. I would encourage you, if you're able to come participate or witness that meeting and the discussion that follows. Consequent to that kind of vetting the idea there, I had lunch with our city manager, and he made the suggestion that we connect from that alignment of Burn Road at Road 36, connect that to the north. It's about 1/4 of a mile. It'll increase our access to Fire Station number 3 that's in the county, and it would tie that in to the north edge of the city limits. And then consequent to that conversation, some people made the suggestion that potentially we connect that alignment to the south to connect with Road 36, where Road 36 turns into Burden Boulevard. So if you took all of those together, that's about 3¼ miles of new road. From Burns to Glade Road is approximately 2 miles. The area to the north is about 1/4 of a mile, and the area to the south on Road 36 is about 1 mile long. So a project that is underway there right now, it is in the engineering part, is there's going to be a sewer LID, a local improvement district, that will bring sewer It will sewer the new Ryman Industrial Center where the Dairy Gold project is gonna be. It will come from approximately that location where that natural gas-fired power plant is. It will go west from that point. It'll travel Glade Road to the south to a sewer lift station that will then lift it across into the King City area. There's capacity in that system. And then from that lift station, it will turn and head, kind of today, it's kind of cross-country, basically in the direction of Douglas Fruit. So that facility project is already underway in the engineering and the design. And so as we've identified this other project, we thought it would be a good hand-in-hand project. So I would encourage you to get engaged in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm not sure. I'll have to get back with you. I will get back with you on that. Thank you.
All right, public comment. Nobody on the phone, Keith? Anybody else in the room for public comment? Seeing none, is there any other business for the good of the county? Hearing none, this meeting is